Hey y'all, we're going on a walk, and who are you?
Well, my name's Brant, and I was just out here walking, and she came along and she said, hey, the format of this is going to work better if there's somebody walking with me, so would you mind coming along? So that's what happened.
Okay.
No, I'm Brant. I'm Erin's husband.
Yeah.
I think she said my name once or twice.
That's right. Welcome back to the channel, Brant.
Thank you.
So, I've been keeping you informed about the videos I've been making.
Mm-hmm.
You've been watching them. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is, well, dang it, I didn't realize that you knew who was watching it.
You told me you were watching it.
Yeah. So what are my thoughts about your videos?
Yeah.
Well, you're my hero. I think you're doing great. I think they're great. I think they're really informative, and I'm a little biased because I want them to be good and I want you to do good. So that's what I think.
Thank you for watching them, and thank you for the kind words.
Yeah.
So, I think one interesting thing that you could talk about is what you did early while you were in college, because you worked in a field that's relevant to Alzheimer's and dementia. You want to talk a little bit about your work experience?
Sure. So when I was in school, full disclaimer, I was in school for a little bit of time because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Anyway, I was a little bit older than most. I was probably 22, 23 maybe, and still probably around a sophomore. And so at that point, I had bills and stuff, so I had to actually have full-time work. And I was living in a kind of a college town in Central Texas, and my good friend at the time, that was my roommate, and he had just graduated college. He was a graphic designer, and he was working for like a local brain injury rehabilitation place. And he said, hey, they need people to work overnight at one of the facilities, and it pays a little bit more. And so I took that on. You know, truth be told, at the time, it was one of those things where I was just like, what's going to pay me a good amount of money to where I can survive taking care of the monthly expenses and stuff that I needed to while I was getting a full school load done. At the time, I had no idea about, the industry of brain injuries, brain rehabilitation, or any kind of rehabilitation. I did that for about 3 years, and I worked at what they considered one of the lower level facilities, which basically lower level meant more serious injuries. They had more serious injuries that really affected their lifestyle. I worked overnight, which basically meant that I went in around 7:30 or 8 p.m., right whenever everybody was winding down their evening. And my job there was to help people take care of their nightly routine, their structure, right? We called it their structure. It's really important for people with brain deficiencies and brain injuries to maintain a pretty steady routine in their life, because these folks had a hard time making new memories and stuff. And the one thing that could be consistent and could actually go their way a little bit was to have a very structured routine that they followed daily. So anyway, I would go in the evening. that meant usually helping. By the time I'd get there, they were just finishing up dinner. I'd help some of the, we call them participants, but the injured folk. I'd help them clean up their dishes and all that kind of stuff. It was a co-ed facility, so they were both male and female. And so I was responsible of helping the males when it came time to start getting ready for bed. I'd help them, get in and kind of get undressed, put their clothes in dirty clothes, get their nightly shower routine, all that kind of stuff done, get them into bed, and then overnight, I would have to go in every hour and peep my head into everybody's room with a flashlight to make sure that everybody was in bed, everybody was okay. Because at this type of facility, one of the things that was known to happen was wandering off or running off, because a lot of these people didn't really want to be there. They were there because their family, it had gotten to a point to where they couldn't continue to care for them. They didn't have the resources. It was a 24-hour thing. So I'd have to go in and peep my head in, make sure that they were there, that everything was okay. And then in the mornings, I was responsible for going, waking them up, getting breakfast started, and organizing everything for the morning staff whenever they got there to take over. Most of the time, I was the only person there overnight. There was usually 13 to, on average, maybe 15 people that were staying there at a time. And at that time, most of them were, I was, 23? The average age was probably somewhere around my age, 25 to 30, which was pretty eye-opening to the things that could happen. So that was kind of my duties. During the night, I didn't just spend my entire time going and checking on them, right? That was 5 minutes of an hour. So during the night, I'd have to do laundry. There, unfortunately, was a lot of incontinence that happened. So, I would have to, do laundry, or I would have to, some of the people I would have to go and get them up throughout the night to use the restroom, because if not, they would end up wetting the bed. And that's something that you don't want to happen, because when they're wet the bed, you got to get them up, you got to have them shower, you got to change the sheets and stuff. So it really was my first serious experience of caregiving in a way. So it was very eye-opening. I did that for about 3 years until I finished college. And gosh, there was a lot of ups and there was a lot of downs, At 23, I was still in the process of finding my own way, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life and what was important to me and all that kind of stuff. And here I am working with some people that were plus or minus a few years of me, and they are committed to just being at this facility for the foreseeable future because of either a car wreck or an accident at work, kind of stuff that was beyond their control. And so the ups was whenever I would see people doing good, right? And then the downs were if somebody had a really bad seizure and then they were for the next 3 weeks just not their normal self and really struggling and, having a hard time with their structure and everything. And so it really caused me to enjoy what I had, and be thankful for what I had. But also it it helped me to understand that, stuff happens to people every day that's beyond their control, and they're still living their best life for what they can. And you can't take that stuff for granted. Sometimes people need help, and you just do what you got to do to help them. I had some pretty rough experiences there, but all in all, it was a good experience, and I wouldn't take it back. And now that we've got your dad who's dealing with brain deficiencies, and we've got other loved ones that are kind of starting to experience early signs of brain fog and what could possibly be dementia or Alzheimer's. It's kind of interesting that I had that experience early on in my life, because I feel like some of the things that I learned that I didn't realize I was learning are starting to come back naturally. And it makes it easier for me to understand some of the things that we're witnessing. And then when I think about what our potential future could be, both with you and then with our boys, it's sad, but also it's not as scary because I've seen some of that stuff before. So yeah.
So Brant often joins me on walks, which is something that I started doing after we got my genetic information, because exercise is a key way to keep your brain healthy. It produces brain-derived neurotrophic, something with an F, BDNF, which is really good for helping your brain clear any buildup that it's got going on. And so we try to walk regularly, especially when the weather's good, because it's sometimes really, really hot here in Texas. But today I wanted to test out this new selfie stick to see whether we could use it, to record videos while walking, and you'll have to let me know how this goes. I think Brant's background in brain health, even though it wasn't something that he set out to do early in life, is something that makes him a uniquely qualified partner to deal with everything that we're facing with my health, my family's health. What do you think are some of the biggest skills that you took away from working at the brain health rehab?
Oh gosh, patience. Yeah. So some of the biggest skills, like the number one that just went, blew up in my mind, is patience. Also, not take things personally. And the reason I say that is, I'll give you an example. This was like my first week of working there. It was my first night by myself there, and one of the people there, he had multiple TBIs when he was in his late teens, early 20s. Caused him to have really bad grand mal seizures. Those seizures would just continue to irritate his brain each time he had them. Well, this first night that I was by myself overnight, he had like a really bad seizure like 2 days prior. And so I had to go and check on him, and he had ended up wetting the bed. And so I had to get him up, and I had to get him to undress and take a shower and stuff, and try to get him to do this so that I could change the sheets and stuff on his bed. Well, as soon as I woke him up, he immediately just was like, he just got so belligerent, and he was cussing at me. He was doing these, what he thought were ninja moves. And like looking back on it now, I mean, I love the kid to death, because we ended up we ended up having a really good relationship. But I didn't know anything about how he was, and I didn't know how he presented and stuff. So he was doing these like ninja moves, telling me he was gonna take me down and he was gonna do this because I was so stupid, and he used some pretty derogatory words toward me and stuff. And that happened regularly, right? One of the things that I didn't mention was that I was also responsible for determining whether or not some of these people earned their cigarette or earned an extra cup of coffee in the morning. And it was all behavioral based, right? And there were times whenever I had to explain to somebody, I'm sorry you didn't earn your extra cup of coffee this morning, or you didn't earn your after dinner cigarette. And they get really mad about that kind of stuff, because these are some of the things that they really look forward to in their day. And whenever you have to break that news to them, oh gosh, you're the worst person in the world. And they'll call you names, and they'll, do all kinds of stuff. And you just have to let it roll off your back. And you just got to realize that, this isn't who they are. This is not their real personality. And so working there helped me develop patience for people that are struggling as a parent with the boys, although I will say that there have been times whenever my lack of patience has gotten the best of me. But more so when it comes to interacting with people that have some sort of deficiency, I've been able to have more empathy and patience and understanding around what they're experiencing, and I don't take anything personal, and I tend not to get frustrated if I have to do a little bit extra to help them. So I would say that's the top three: patience, empathy, and I don't know, whatever the other one was. I forgot.
Well, y'all will have to let us know how this first walk and talk with Aaron and Brant went. I appreciate you listening to the channel, and we'll continue to keep the updates coming. Brant, will you always give me my extra cup of coffee, even if I don't earn it?
Well, if that's something that you'll ask of me now, yeah. You know what? Sorry, one of the things that I'm known for is, if any of you watching this are in a similar circumstance, or you have a loved one or somebody that you care for and or care about, or somebody that's in your life that is struggling with, early stages of brain impairment, or anything for that matter that is going to, create a tough situation for their life in the future. If it's easily doable to have a conversation with them about what their hopes are for their care, I would say do that. I know it would be really tough. Aaron and I, we've kind of done that, but we haven't really gone deep into it and documenting things. But I think that it's super helpful for one of these days for Aaron and I to have a serious discussion about, okay, what exactly do you expect? What do you want? What don't you want? But, I do know some of the stuff just from us being married for as long as we have. I just know how she likes to live and what her expectations are and what she does want and what she doesn't want. But I think that as a caregiver, it could be really tough if you're having to provide care for a loved one and you're just wanting to make all the right decisions so that you can provide the best quality of life and dignity and all that kind of stuff. If you were to actually talk to your loved one, they might say, oh gosh, no, I don't need you to use wet wipes when you're wiping my bottom, right? Like, I don't need you to do that. But and that's a very silly example. I'm just saying, if you can document some of those important things early on, then you don't have to worry about that stuff creeping up on you at the last minute and then really sweating, over the anxiety of making the right decision, right? So anyway, I just thought that, that's a good thing to throw out there, if you can do it.
So I guess it's important for me to leave a recorded record of the fact that I always want my second cup of coffee then.
That's right. That's right.
Brant, thank you for joining me for this episode. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
I will.
Bye, guys.